Flashback.
You were a child, crawling on your knees toward it.
Can you believe that this puffer can grow over 2 feet big?
Eventually.
How's it going, everybody? Those of y'all new to my channel here, my name's Austin, and this is Fintastic Freaks. I'm pretty sure I've said this a few times, not a dozen times, or 100, who knows, that on this channel, I love talking about freshwater puffers. And one of the most commonly known freshwater puffers happens to be the biggest one out there. Of course, when I say that, I am talking about none other than the Mbu Puffer.
Hello, everybody.
The Mbu Puffer, of course, famously not just as the mascot for Aquarium Co-op, but also widely known as the largest freshwater puffer. The king, if you would. And I mean for good reason. Mac here isn't even halfway grown yet, and he's already about a foot. These puffers can grow well over 2 feet, sometimes even closer to 3. That, and of course, like a lot of other puffers out there, the Mbu Puffer is one of the most personable, intelligent, and interactive fish. This is what they like to do. They come up to the front of the glass, love to say hello, and are very curious about what you're doing out there. And in this video, guys, while giving a little update on my Mbu Puffer, Mac here in his 510-gallon tank, we're also going to look a little deeper on the Mbu Puffer itself. Here is my Mbu Puffer care guide. So the Mbu Puffer, also known scientifically as Tetradon mbu, or the giant freshwater puffer, for reasons in which we kind of described earlier that make it kind of obvious, is native to different lakes and rivers throughout Africa. Being native to Africa, of course, that means this guy prefers tropical water parameters. Temperature-wise, I usually keep mine somewhere around the 79 to 81 degrees. I've learned that at least my individual Mbu here kind of likes it on the higher end of the spectrum there, the tropical water temperatures. Unlike some other puffers out there, which are a bit more territorial, you can put some smaller fish in with this puffer. Of course, this also depends on if you're giving your puffer a big enough footprint, which, considering the fact that I said earlier that these puffers here can grow well over 2 feet, sometimes even closer to 3, you're going to need a pretty big sized tank anyway. So if you give them a bigger enough tank, is that a way to say it? Either way, a big enough tank there, yeah, you can do like what I did, where I have about 3.5 dozen tetras in here, some rummy noses and cardinals to be precise, and overall it can make a pretty nice looking tank. pH level 7.0 and you're going to do just fine. Hardness and softness isn't too much of an issue. If you're a little bit one way or the other, it's not too bad. As long as it's not dramatically one way or another, they'll tolerate it usually just fine. In terms of aquascape, they're not usually overly picky about what that is. Some will dig up plants, but as you can see by the multitude of crypts we have here, as well as some other plants back there and throughout the tank, he does not. He usually leaves them alone, despite the fact that he does occasionally like to wallow in the sand, which is another thing which we did mention earlier. But these puffers, or really any puffer, you want to go ahead and try to give them a fine grain sandy substrate. In my plywood tank here, I have pool filter sand. Yep, believe it or not, that stuff does work just as fine as that stuff that you can buy in 20-pound bags for 50 bucks at pet stores. Only this stuff you can only buy for about 12 bucks for every 50 pounds. Much better, right? All that aside, the reason why we want a sandy substrate for our finned friend here is because gravel and such can actually scratch up his body, and since he, like a lot of other puffers, is indeed a scaleless fish, he still can be susceptible to things in the water such as parasites and diseases, which we certainly don't want that. In terms of tank size, there's a little bit of debate out there in terms of what the bare minimum is for these fish here. A lot of people will tell you, and myself included, that it's best to try to give them at least 8 feet side to side here, with, if you can give them at least a little over 3 feet front to back, then that is probably about the minimum I would personally recommend here. My tank here is, yeah, about 8 foot side to side, and it is 39 inches front to back, and about 30 inches tall. Although height of the aquarium isn't the biggest thing. I guess you don't want it too shallow either. The main thing that you want for your Mbu Puffer is a plenty big footprint, just a big footprint as you can possibly give them, to give them a lot of swim space to where they can just explore. And believe me, if you do so, they're going to reward you with this little curious behavior they have. And one of the favorite things for me about the Mbu Puffer is just the coloration and the markings. The whites, the yellow, the black, and just the markings on his back. Put all that together, and in my book, you got a puffer that's not only quite like a water puppy, but quite the looker as well. While open spaces are important for your Mbu, I've learned that most of them do like little nooks and crannies too, where they can hide themselves when they want to, or just kind of chill. Usually when the lights are off is when mine likes to kind of go over here by this branch. Sometimes he'll even go on that ship back there and just chill. But usually when the lights are on, mine likes to come out and swim around. Not necessarily all of them like to do that. Some of them do like to hide. But Mac here is definitely one when the lights are on, he's moving around. And of course, as you've seen swimming around the tank with Mac, you've probably seen about the 3.5 dozen tetras we have swimming around here. In total, I have 2 different species in this tank with them, cardinals and rummy nose tetras to be precise, which of course kind of answers the question, yes, depending on the tank that you give them, yeah, as long as you give them plenty of space to do their thing and plenty of room for the fish to do their thing without getting in his way or look too alluring for him to chomp on and have a snack, I guess. Yes, it is very possible to keep tank mates with these puffers. Another reason why I like having tank mates with my puffer is, as we all know, puffers can be very messy eaters, and Mac right here is absolutely no different from that crowd. He loves his meaty foods like a lot of other puffers do. Half clams, when he was younger, bloodworms, he's kind of outgrown that now though, but frozen krill, snails, feeder crays, feeder shrimp, he loves them all. And as he chows down and makes a bit of a mess, his supporting cast here helps him tidy the house here. Give you a bit of an example as to what I mean here. I got a little steak of krill we'll see here. As we approach the tank here, you'll see the other problem here is that I can't feed Mac without feeding my queen, the Fahaka puffer, Finley, over here. Because when I bring one of them food, well, you can kind of see the problem here right here in the frame. When one gets to eat, the other one wants to eat. Little krill steak for Mac, which as you can see, he is oh so eager to get. He loves these things. Yeah, let's just let the puffer do his work. Notice right as he bites in there, you'll see little bits and pieces float off and fly into the water here. And look at just how the tetras go at it right away while also still staying out of his way. They're very careful to make sure they don't get too close to his teeth. It would not end well for them if they did. And in the end, it's a nice little relationship. Mac gets a good chunk of food that he gets to munch down on, and though he does make a little bit of a mess, you can see the tetras, they all just swarm all around the bits and pieces and clean up the mess, helping keep his tank here nice and tidy. I guess a little bit of the leftovers came down. He does not leave anything behind. He doesn't believe in leftovers. Of course, while a Mbu Puffer likes their meaty foods, it's also important to give them hard and crunchy foods, such as snails, crayfish, or half clams. Oh yeah, you want that too, huh, buddy?
Duh.
What am I kidding? Of course you do. And you can just hear the power of his teeth. That's also a big reason why we give it to him, these half clams here, to help file down those teeth, because his teeth continuously grow like a lot of other puffers do, and if they get too big, it can cause problems for them to eat, which obviously will lead to other problems. And let me tell you guys, if you think that's a decent chunk of food compared to what you're used to giving some of your fish, it's only gonna get bigger. As the bigger they get, that is one thing that with these fish kind of can make them costly, outside of the price tag of just getting them in general sometimes, depending where you live, is that, yeah, they can have quite a food bill. So I will say right here, right now, before you get them, make sure you take into account of, one, not just how big they get and the size of tank you're gonna need to properly house them, but also how much it's going to cost for you to feed them once they start reaching about that 2-ish foot range there. A krill steak later, and 2 half clams, you can see he's still scavenging all about for the leftovers. Like I said earlier, this guy does not leave a crumb behind. In the end, while the Mbu Puffer definitely has some big, emphasis on the big, demands here, it's a fish that, if you can meet those demands, it is a very rewarding and beautiful fish. I mean, just the markings and coloration here, again, just looking at that, by itself makes this an absolutely amazing fish that, if you play your cards right and are able to meet all those demands, your Mbu Puffer can live anywhere between 10 to 20 years on average. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Mbu Puffer fish, the king of the freshwater puffers, we'll say. As always, before I wrap up this video, I want to implore that if you are serious about getting a Mbu Puffer, I highly, highly encourage you to check out multiple sources. Don't just listen to me. I'm just one guy here with one of probably millions of Mbu Puffers in the world here. Go check out Corey from Aquarium Co-op, Pufferfish Enthusiasts. There's all sorts of information out there. Go to multiple sources and get as much info as possible. But this kind of fish, the more you know, the better. But if you're considering a Mbu Puffer, let me know in the comments below. Do you own a Mbu Puffer? Also let me know in the comments below. If you feel like I missed talking about something in the comments here about the puffer here, also let me know in the comments below. We're all in this together. Of course, if you're new to the channel and not done so already, consider clicking the subscribe button, staying in the loop with everything I do here. Fish profiles such as this here. Got some projects coming up down here in the fish room as well. All sorts of great stuff ahead here that I hope you choose to follow along too. As always, guys, thank you so much for all the support and watching this video. Click the like button while you're heading out here. As always, thank you for all the support. I'll see you all in the next video, Fish Fam. As always, stay fantastic.